Against the backdrop of continuing banditry and terrorist attacks and kidnapping in several parts of the country, retired senior military officers of the 33rd Regular Course of the Nigerian Defence Academy have called on the federal government to initiate modalities to engage the services of ex-servicemen to bolster the number of troops available to fight insecurity. According to the retired officers, the nation's armed forces is currently overstretched. Hence, the urgent need to bring back retired military officers who are willing and capable to assist the training of younger officers and men. President of the 33rd Regular Course Association, Air Commodore Ibrahim Umar, retired, who made the call during the annual general meeting of the association in Kaduna yesterday, urged the government to go without delay, engage ex-servicemen to overcome banditry, terrorism, and kidnapping. Well, joining us to discuss this is Dennis Amakri. He is a former assistant director with the DSS. Thank you so much, Mr. Amakri, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I'm sure that you are a little wary of this kinds of conversations because we've had them back to back in the space of a year plus, talking about different kinds of insecurity, different levels. Here we are again, but this time on a different note. Guys who have gone into retirement are saying, what we're seeing on the ground, it seems irredeemable. Maybe you need our help because we think that security forces are stretched thin. But what can a retiree like yourself really bring to the table? I'll start with you because this also, includes you.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. There is this thing they call the reserve officers.
Yeah.
And these reserve officers are supposed to be retired, but still kept to be called on in case of emergency or in case when the country needs their help. So, unfortunately, Nigeria does not have a reserve officer corps. It is welcoming to hear that retired officers are asking that, can we help? Because after all, when you look at what is going on, the military itself is thinly spread, overstretched, and then, of course, the other services, like the DSS or even the intelligence community, some of them will need retired officers who could come in and help, especially, like they said, in the area of training, because some of the people that they are recruiting might not have that orientation of national service. So I think it's a welcome idea.
So I'm looking at it from this perspective. These are just soldiers that are asking to come back into the fray. Can the same be said for other regiments? And I'm talking about the Navy, I'm talking about the Air Force, I'm talking also about the likes of the DSS, the police, especially being that soldiers are now doing the job of police officers. I'll tell you where I'm going with this. Most recently, there's been more and more of an upsurge in the southeast, and we're seeing more and more, reprisal attacks. So a soldier is killed, soldiers go and burn down houses, just ransack places, and this is not necessarily the way it should be done if it were the police handling this matter. And many have queried the fact that policemen, soldiers are now doing the job of policing as opposed to what should be their duty. Shouldn't we start there before we start looking at getting more? Yes, the issue of getting more soldiers or people to help is a given. But what is at the core of this? It's not necessarily that we just have a few hands, right? What about the strategy that we're employing in fighting this insecurity?
Yeah, the strategy here is that actually internal security belongs to the police. The police is supposed to be the forefront agency to fight insecurity, supported by the DSS. And of course, the military are not supposed to even partake in internal security. But it has come to a level where, according to the Constitution anyway, whereby if the police is overwhelmed, then they can call on the military to come in So apparently, we have the military already working internally in Nigeria in about 33 states. So you know that they are, that's why I said that they are thinly spread. So we can solve this problem in two ways. One, strengthen the police, because that's what we've been saying all along. The police had been abandoned, whereby the police cannot, handle this internal security situation. Strengthen the police, recruit more people, because this idea of recruiting 10,000 every year doesn't make any sense. We've said it time and time over again that there are countries, in fact, the United Nations have, allocated the number of police that you can use per 1,000 people. And countries like Egypt, they are almost lesser than us, but their police force is 1 million. We had less than 500,000. So this is one thing we can do: strengthen the police by recruiting more people, train them properly. Then you can now even think of retired police officers who can come and train them, or specialized training where you can get from other services like even the military or the DSS to train them for special duties. Then, of course, if we are not taking that route of increasing the strength of the police and strengthening them to do what they are supposed to do constitutionally, then you have to look at the military, which is also overstretched because they are actually out of their constitutional duties. They are now doing police duties. They are now working in internal security. And if you want to maintain that, then you have to either, and we don't have any reserve, so you have to recruit. If you don't recruit as much as you could, you can also call in the retired staff to come and then work there. And unfortunately, like I said, we don't have a reserve corps, because most countries have reserve corps where they can pull in people when there is a national emergency.
Let me take you on a couple of things that you've mentioned. Training is very important on every level, whether it be the police, the DSS, is very important. But I'm most curious about the remuneration here. As we speak, it starts with the police. Remuneration for the police in itself is a problem. One of the things that young people protested during the answers was for better pay for the police, for better kitting for the police. That's not changed. That has not been done. And then we're asking that we get more people into the force. Who wants to work where they're not properly remunerated, especially knowing the risks that are involved in policing? I would be very ready to serve my country if the perks are there. So how do you even get to, allow people come into the force if you are not willing and ready to properly remunerate them and give them some sort of job satisfaction?
You're very correct. If you're not properly remunerating them, you cannot just bring them in. And when we say that recruit does not just mean enlist people. Put an advert, let people come, we take 10,000 of them into the police. That is not it. Okay, let's say you are recruiting 10,000. Recruiting 10,000 means that you are going to provide those vacancies for them. Those vacancies will include housing, salaries, uniform, all kinds of things, armaments, So if the police is going to take more members out into their organization, then they have to also buy more arms, which these new people are going to use. You just don't bring them in, and then, of course, you cannot provide uniforms for them, because we've been seeing a policeman who is wearing loafers, or not properly kitted.
I've seen one wear flip-flops before and carry a gun.
Exactly. So it tells you that this guy is not properly kitted, and you are not supposed to even hire him, because it diminishes the image of the police. So, if you are going to hire, then you must take in consideration of, their salaries, and enhanced salary, of course, because many people will not like to go there if you're not paying them an enhanced salary. Then, of course, regularity of that salary, whereby it has to be paid as at when due at the end of the month, because you cannot leave that loophole where you don't pay him and then he has to start asking people, oh, your boy is there here, oh, happy weekend, oh, we know all those tricks, So you must pay them well, you must kit them properly, you must give them all kinds of equipment that they need to do the job. If you have to give them housing in a barracks. If you don't want to put them in a barracks, give them enough money to rent a house and live among the people. And I think that's one of the things that we've been advocating. So it involves a lot. It is, the budgetary implication of doubling the size of the police is a lot. And of course, they can do it gradually, because now that the emergency is facing us in the face, we have to do something about it.
Let's talk about the issue of state policing. I want to bring it back because, for some would say this has become a campaign slogan. When it's side-by-side restructuring. When you say, oh, give us restructuring, give us state police. But the actionable plan to make it a thing is a cause, or a cause for concern. Several states, let me even start with the basic salary of civil servants. Many states have been unable to pay the cap for some of its civil servants, being that the federal government had, led by paying a certain amount of money. Some states are still struggling in that regard. Now, if we must do state policing, you talked about budgeting, how many states can afford that? Being that states also need it, and I'm talking about states, especially in the Northeast and some parts of the Northwest. How many states can afford it? What do we need to be bleeding for policing to, one way or the other, be grown to a place where we can at least sleep well at night with our eyes closed, knowing that we have good policing? I'm taking you into numbers and statistics here, but I'm sure you can do a good job.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that question. You see, we are, looking at it at a different angle. Number one, everybody have said it. Everybody knows it. This particular government said it, that if they come into governance, they are going to create state police. They came in there and they forgot it. Other people are campaigning now. If we go in there, we'll bring state police. Now, the advantages of having state police cannot be overemphasized. But let me tell you, you have to break up the police, because crime is committed locally, and you have to break it up to where the crime is being committed. Here in the United States, you have about 18,000 police organizations. 18,000. And when I say 18,000, I'm talking of state police, I'm talking of county sheriff, we are talking of university police. All universities have their own police department. So you have all these city police. For a place like Lagos, we know Lagos is in Lagos is a state. We can have a state police for Lagos, but we can also have the state city police for Lagos City itself. So these are the kinds of things, the kind of dynamics that work when you need policing at the very grassroots. And that's what we need. Somebody will come out and say, how about funding? Because that's where many people say, oh, we cannot afford it. That is a lie. There is no state in Nigeria that cannot afford to pay their police. Because let me tell you, number one, The basic responsibility of government is what? The protection of lives and property. So if you are not doing the number one, which is protecting life and property, why are you going to do other things? Why are you going to do other things like water, providing water, or providing road, or providing, because the fundamental objective of security, of safety of people is security. And security is carried out by policemen. So why don't you stay with the police, take care of them, then other things will follow. Because if the society is safe and secure, then a lot of things will happen. But if the society is not safe and secure, even businesses will not operate to pay taxes to the government. So this is the important thing. We are misplacing our priorities. In the United States here again, number one, money is spent on education. Guess what number two is?
Security.
Number two, security. That is the order. Number one, education. Number two, security. And there are other kinds of ways that they can, raise money to take care of all this. But that's a story for another day.
Well, I just want to quickly query before I let you go. Query some of the things that you brought. I mean, it's interesting. In the UK, we have the Met Police. We have Scotland Yard. I mean, it's decentralized also. And the US's model is also a very interesting one. But have we grown to a point where we can actually have that kind of decentralized police? I'm asking because of, bearing in mind the mode of our governance in this part of the world and how, for the want of a better word, myopic society is, and of course, leadership is.
Well, the police organization is designed in different ways. When we talk of the Metropolitan Police in the UK, they have their own structure. And that is where we even borrowed ours. Okay? And then, of course, the Bobbies, that's what they call them there, they don't even carry guns. It is only when there is an emergency or quick response, then those carrying guns will come out. We can do the same thing in Nigeria. You know how when you go to the road and you see a mopol carrying an AK-47 moving around, sometimes get drunk, and of course people can take it from him. So all these things are there. MI5, MI6, you are talking of the internal and external police now, just like you have the NIA in Nigeria, or the TSS, which is for internal, NIA for external. We have all that. And these are all police systems. But you can call all these ones federal police, like the DSS, federal police.
And Interpol, maybe. Do we have Interpol in Nigeria?
And Interpol is international police. Yes, because they don't do the same thing. Many people confuse this, or this idea of state police is becoming a problem because many people are confusing it. Those who are taking care of state policing have the certain kind of crime that they look for and they solve. If somebody commits murder, for instance, they will pursue that person. The state police will pursue him. If somebody commits murder in a university, the university police will arrest him, but they will hand him over to the state police because the crime that is committed belongs to the state. If somebody is carrying fraudster, or should I say drug, for instance, drug is a federal offense. So they will carry that. If state police arrest somebody with drugs, they will transfer the person to like our NDLA, which is a federal police. So everyone, even local governments have their own laws that they enforce. It is not always that anything, two people are fighting, then you bring federal police, or traffic congestion. that is local government. You bring a federal police controlling traffic. It is funny. So the laws that will set up these things have to also consider to set up these laws to fit the kind of policing that we require.
Well, we can only hope and pray that this ideas that you put out would be co-opted, and someday we would be proud of the policing system that we have in Nigeria. Dennis Amakere is a former Deputy Director of the DSS, and it's always a pleasure to have conversations with you, Mr. Amakere. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, that's the show tonight. Thank you all for being part of the conversation. Don't forget, if you missed any part of the program, you can go to our YouTube pages, PlusTvAfrica and PlusTvAfrica Lifestyle, to play catch up on all our episodes. And don't forget, you can watch us on Glow apps, and you can also watch us on other apps. Don't forget, you can go to our website. It's www.PlusTvAfrica.com. I am Mary Anacon. Go get your PVC. If it's ready, pick it up, because that's your passport to a new Nigeria. Have a good evening.